Hey everyone, we are back. This is BK Motors of Mayhem, and this week we are back on the Yamaha. And well, I gotta tell you something. With the starter repair, air quotes, that we did last week, well, it did not work. Unfortunately, the starter still engages very poorly. But I do have news. In the meantime, I have been tearing that cover off and reinstalling it probably about a half dozen times, trying different hacks, tips, and tricks. And I found one that seems to have worked pretty good. But the problem is, well, I need to improve upon it just a little bit. So that is what we're going to be doing this week. And hopefully we can get the starter issues finally resolved. So give me 1 minute here. Let me get my tools and everything, and I'll be right back. All right. So we are going to be starting off again by taking the cover off all over again. Okay. So now, just give her some wiggles. Okay, so got the cover off, and I'll explain to you guys what's been going on and what is happening and why it's not working properly. So I'll pull the starter gear here, a starter mechanism, gear, whatever you want to call it, and I'll show you guys what's going on. So this is the starter mechanism right here. The starter gear is right in there. So when you press the button, the starter gear spins up, spins the big gear, which then shoots out this gear here. Now, from factory, they came with a spring. This guy right here, which is one of the problems. I'll show you. So what happens is you place this spring back on like so. If I can realign this. There we go. There we go. But now there's a problem with that. This spring, when this gear shoots out, fights against the gear, pushing it back, not wanting it to engage with the flywheel. That's one of the problems. So what I've found is they say take that spring off and basically throw it away. Don't use it. It's no good. It's fighting against the gear to engage on the flywheel, which you don't want. Now, as you can see, spins much better. A little more freely, no tension, no pressure, nothing. The next issue that it has is this gear, when it's forced out, and into the flywheel, will actually spin faster than the flywheel, then disengaging the gear and causing it to grind on the back of the flywheel. And that is what's happening, because this obviously runs the rest of the engine. So when this picks up compression, it moves a little slower than the starter gear, disengaging it and grinding. So what I have found people have done, which has worked, and it did work for me, is they take something and put on the back of this clip, which clips in here, thus tightening the spring and slowing the gear down to match the flywheel. Now you can see I put a piece of copper wire on here to tighten it a little more. But what I've found is the copper is too soft of a metal, so you only get a couple turns out of it with the copper wire on there, and then it stretches out and it no longer works. But when the copper wire does work, it works really well. You can actually crank the bike over a decent amount of times and it will work and engage the flywheel. So what we're going to do today is try and improve upon this by putting a thicker gauge piece of wire on here. So I'm going to go ahead, pop my gear off, get my clip off, clip. Now, when I originally put this wire on, it's more like that. So you can see it's stretched out quite a bit. It's about back to how it would come from factory. So that we do not want. So like I said, I have another idea to see if we can get this to tighten up and slow this gear down. So what I'm going to try and use, now if this doesn't work, I do have another idea, but I figured we'll give it a shot. It might be a little easier than my other idea. So we'll give this a shot first. And this is just a regular old steel coat hanger. And I'm figuring we can wrap this around nice and tight. Might have to heat it up a little bit to bend it easier. And then maybe even just place a bit of solder on it to keep it from stretching out. And that might work. So I'm going to get to it and see if I can get this to work. Okay, so we are back. And now I've fabricated and made up this clip right here. I know it looks like it is touching, but believe me, it actually isn't. It is just extremely tight clearance on that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slap this all back together. I'm not going to put any silicone on it or clean this up yet because I would like to at least test it a little bit. Yes, I know the bike doesn't have any oil in it, but I'm going to try it and see if that improved it or if I need to tighten this up a little bit more. So, without any further ado, let's get to putting this back together again. And then I'll have to take it back apart to put the silicone back on it and then put it back together again. But don't worry, maybe I'll do that off camera so I don't have to put you guys through the pain, just myself. just really got to jiggle it and wiggle it around to line it back up and get it back in. There. Back on. All right, so I got the cover back on, the gear back in. I've hooked up my booster. We're gonna see how well it works now. So let's see. Didn't even jump a beat. That stayed engaged the entire time and spun. Didn't sound the greatest because it might still be walking back out a little bit. I know it did that before with the copper wire on it. It walked out a touch. But now at least I could turn it over and try and start the bike. So, with that said, I am going to go ahead, pop that cover off, clean it up, put some more silicone back on it, put it back on, and then tomorrow I'm going to run out, get some more oil, get some spark plugs for it, and hopefully we can start this and get it running much better. So I'll be back in a flash, YouTube magic, and I'll see you in a little bit. Hey everyone, we are back. It is now the next day, and I got some plugs and some oil for it. So we're going to finish up what we started yesterday, and we're going to slap some new plugs in it and some more oil and see if this thing will start up a little bit easier today and hopefully run. So let's get to it. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the key on and crank the bike over and see if that fix that we did yesterday is still working. Fingers crossed, it should be. Yes, by the sounds of it, it is. Okay, so next we'll go ahead, put some new plugs in it. Gonna get rid of these old, cruddy, fouled out plugs. Because if you remember, I cleaned them before with some gasoline, which worked a little bit, got the bike to start, but it wasn't running the greatest. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace them this time. Slap some new plugs in and see what happens. Tighten it down. All right. So last plug in, wire back on. That is finished. So now I'm just going to go grab a funnel to dump the oil in. We're going to hope that that gasket is going to hold up and not leak, hopefully. And then we're going to go ahead and try and start the bike again. Now for oil, I just got some Castrol GTX 10W40, and that should be more than enough for this. All right. Can't see that sight window. Okay. All right, well, that appears to be about a good enough level there. It's got a little sight window down here, and that's how you check the oil level. And it appears to be about pretty good. Go ahead, close this up. Oh, gasket fell off the oil cap, of course. Pop that back on. Do this again. All right, there we go. Now we're good. All right, I'm just going to clean up a little bit, and then we'll give it a shot to see if it will start. All right, so flipping on the booster. Key. Let's switch the pedcock over to prime and give it a shot. All right, everyone. Well, as you can see, it does fire back up and it is a lot better with the starter. So that is huge progress. Now, it wasn't running the best on gas. Again, it was having issues. I actually took off the air cleaner on the side and just sprayed some fuel, or sorry, some starter fluid right into the intake, and that's what it fired up on and ran on. So we are still having fuel delivery issues, fuel carburetor issues, all that fun stuff. We're still having that, but the starter works and it will start again. So that is another huge amount of progress down and done on the Yamaha Virago. So until next week, guys, I will say this is BK Motors and Mayhem out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I'll catch you next week on the next video.